Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting, June 24, 2008. Paul, pledge allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Paul. 7 o'clock tonight we'll have citizens input. 7:05, Foxboro School Committee joint meeting to fill the vacancy of the Southeastern Regional Vocational Tech High School. 7:15, Dr. Chris Marr, Superintendent of Schools, will update us on the building project grant. 7:30, Robert Hickey, the NRCC, Hollingsworth and Bowles, and the Neponset Dam, which I think a lot of you are here for. And just for the record, it's probably the most people I've ever seen in this room at one time. 7:45, we have a public hearing for all alcohol license for Lewis Tavern and Grill, 1 Patriots Place. 8 o'clock, we have another all alcohol license for CBS Scenes Patriots Place. 8:15, another public hearing for all alcohol license for LLC DBA Showcase Live at Patriots Place. At 8:30, we have Attorney Frank Spillane, acceptance of a Spring Street land. At 9 o'clock, we have Town Council with the Police Chief to discuss the police detail bylaw. 9:30, we're going to have executive session for the Town Manager, collective bargaining for the Fire Chief's contract. And before we get into this citizens' input, I understand and see some people are here on the dog park issue. It was not put on the agenda tonight because of the intense size of our agenda. It comes to 9, we can kick this off by 9:30, we will have you on the agenda. We also have action list, old news, old business and new business. But we'll see how it goes. That's all I can promise you. All right? So the faster we move on, the better we are. Anybody else here for citizens input? Sir, your name for the record?
My name is Chris Mellon, 1 Monroe Street. I'd like to introduce to you all the Friends of the Neponset Reservoir Association. We handed out to Andy Gala, and he distributed to each of you a little packet of information. At a Selectmen's meeting about a month ago, there was some discussion about the Neponset Reservoir and the various parties involved. So what I thought in hearing that was that we'd present for you all a little summary. And essentially what it has in this handout, each of you have it, is a 1-page organization summary chart, just letting you each know what the Neponset Reservoir Committee is versus the NRRC versus the Friends of Neponset Reservoir Association. The second portion of this is a listing of 28 reasons why the town should take over ownership of the Neponset Reservoir Dam, ranging from timing reasons to recreational reasons to natural resource reasons to responsibility reasons and maintenance reasons. And the third piece of this information is an FAQ, frequently asked questions just about the situation, what the Neponset Reservoir is, its history, some of the parties involved, information about the animal life, the fish life in the reservoir, and so on. And then finally, there is a new website, neponsetfriends.com. Again, that's neponsetfriends.com. And we just have a printout of the contents of that website in this handout, so you can see it. Thank you.
Thank you. How many here, friends of the Neponset Reservoir? Can you raise your hands? That's a lot of this. Well, we're going to be discussing this at 7:30, so we'll move on till then, okay? Okay, so nobody else here for citizens input? Seeing none. Foxboro School Committee joint meeting to fill vacancy at Southeastern Regional Vocational Tech High School. Welcome. Would you like to approach?
Come on up.
Do you want Dan to come up?
Yeah. Dan, Mr. Igata. Can you make it through there, Dan?
Yeah.
How's it going, Dan?
Good. I brought my own chair, so.
Good thinking, good thinking.
You look good.
Oh, yeah.
You dress up nice just for me?
12 hours in this chair. I'm waiting to get out of it.
Well, we'll try not to keep you too long.
Thanks. I appreciate you putting me on the agenda so early, too.
My pleasure, our pleasure, I should say. Okay, who would like to start? Larry?
Oh,
You're always the leader.
No, Bev's the chair.
Oh, Bev.
I am the
Sorry.
chair, yes.
Doesn't mean much these days.
Well, I think Dr. Martis feels he has at least 3 chair people.
We all work together.
Right. We are here because Mr. Igata has stepped forward and would like to be named as a replacement until November for Mr. Girardin
Mm-hmm.
on the school committee. So,
In the school committee?
for Southeastern.
Southeast.
No, the
The
school
region.
committee's all,
And the school committee
Unanimous?
feels very comfortable, and thank you for offering your time and volunteerism.
okay, great. We'll open up to the board. Paul, any questions?
No, I yield right now. I have nothing. No.
Paul?
Likewise.
James?
Dan, you have any thoughts on Southeastern Regional Education? I know you went there. Can you share some of your experiences and what do you have to offer?
Yeah, I went to Foxboro High my freshman year.
Okay.
And then I went to Southeastern my sophomore year, which is not the normal course. You take an exploratory over there your freshman year. You usually touch on 4 shops of your interest. So when I picked, my first choice was electrical, and it was full. I went into plumbing, and I still conduct a business for the last 25 years out of Foxboro as a plumbing and heating contractor. And I wouldn't trade that education for a degree at Harvard. I literally loved what I did every day when I get up and I went to work. And I think that Southeastern and the people that were over there at the time to nurture you along, I can't say enough about a vocational education, whether it's in plumbing or whether it's in food services or any other shop over there. The students over there basically have built half that school, and I know a lot of it hasn't changed since I've been there because I've been in touch with some of the administrators over there. I just got my license, my Massachusetts teaching license, in June of 2006, specifically in vocational education. So even though I'm not teaching at the time, I'm still actually at UMass doing my graduate program. So I've got a few years left there, and I think that between being a business person, coming from the town, being a lifelong resident, and being a teacher along with being an alumnus, I just think that it's real important that I have the wherewithal from the school committee and the selectmen to get someone in place immediately to represent Foxboro, the young children and or the young adults and the children that go into that school. And that's why I put in my application that I would, this isn't a permanent appointment, but someone I think really needs to get on board right away. And I think that, we've lost 3 months already. And I just think that my resume and my past committee activity speaks for itself.
Thank you for sharing, Dan. That's all I have on.
Linda?
Did anybody else come forth for this?
Dan's the
Because I
only
know
one.
we kind
Just been
of,
interested.
we put out for the alumni to come forward, and Dan's the only one. But thank you for stepping up, Dan.
Dan, can you afford the gas?
Yeah, I know. I just filled my tank, $96.
Oh, boy. No, Dan, thank you for stepping forward. I know I've talked to you about this in length many times, and it came to the fruition. I'm glad for you. I think you can get a positive vote from this
I'd
board.
like to thank Ms. Chairwoman and Mr. Chairman for having me tonight before. I know it's very tough to get both of these committees together with a quorum, so I thank you.
Nickham? Go ahead.
We need a vote from this board?
Yes.
It's
Well, a
joint
collective,
vote.
it's a joint.
Yep.
Would you like somebody from this side to make a motion?
That'd be
And somebody
great.
from your side to second it?
I would so
Absolutely.
make that motion that we nominate Dan Iagata to sit on the board at Southeastern Vocational and Technical School.
We're actually
Through to
appointing him
November.
for right now.
Appointing.
From this date till,
It's November.
November, election day in November.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Mark, you have a question back there.
Where?
Anything back there at all in
Okay.
We're not talking about the reservoir yet.
We'll try to get louder for you.
I'm very soft-spoken, I'm sorry.
Just wait 5 minutes.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Dan.
Thanks,
I'm
Dan.
sure you
Good
did a
night,
great
appreciate
job.
it.
Is your committee going to stick around for Dr. Mott's report?
Yes. Here, I
I figure we'll make it, we'll make, wait for you.
Kate, can you just
Yes, actually, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, we can pull those right out. No, I'm fine. Andy, you know what
Are you gonna do this? What are we doing?
I'm going to ask that question right now.
We gotta do these appointments now, or should we?
You sit here.
They can give you the report and then
Okay,
make them as ex official appointments.
so we'll do it after. Okay.
Yes, I wish he is.
Okay, being 7:15, we have Superintendent Modis with us here today, with the school department, Paul Jackson, and is Mike O'Leary coming up?
He just went up to let Dan outside.
Oh, okay, and then Mike O'Leary will be back in with the school committee, so I'll give it to you, Dr. Modis.
Yeah, thank you. I'll use my old principal in the cafeteria voice, if you don't mind, so that everyone can hear. As this board knows, and I know as the school committee knows, we've been involved in looking to renovate Foxboro High School. And it started before I came on board with a report from the McGuire Group that talked about the needs around heating, window replacement, roof replacement, and a number of other things. Science labs being a critical piece for needing to be updated. So last July, we put forth a proposal to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and many of you were involved in that because we needed a number of signatures. And at that point in time, we knew we had a lot of competition out there with a number of other school districts who were looking to do similar projects in one way or another, whether it was a renovation or a new building or whatever. So we waited to see what this new building authority, and just to remind the public, the new building authority has changed from being under the auspices of the Department of Education to being under the treasurer, Tim Cahill's office, and with a number of new regulations. So we waited patiently and heard very good news late in the fall that we were one of 27 schools in Massachusetts who would be in a special category called repair. And we're looking again to renovate, not to build new, not to add on. So then they scheduled an appointment for us, a meeting for us, and Andy Galla, representing the town, along with Randy Scollins and Larry Harrington, then chaired the school committee, and Paul Jackson and Mike O'Leary and I visited their office and started the process. And at this point in time, they haven't moved that quickly, but we also put in, as this board knows, we put in a proposal for the capital improvement plan for a feasibility study, because we know that that's the first phase of this. We need to have an organization come in and take a close look at Foxboro High School and to give us their expert opinion on all of the needs that we have seen, and that they may even see more. So at this point in time, that's really where we are. And I wanted to make sure that the board knew about this. We're now engaged in conversations with the school building authority about how do we make sure that we get this feasibility study going, and there's a lot of new information that we're learning each week. And I'll let Paul Jackson talk a little bit about some of the work that needs to take place going forward.
Thank you. The next step in the process for the school department is to develop what the MSBA, Mass School Building Authority, refers to as an RFS for an OPM. RFS being request for services, OPM being owner's project manager. Statutorily, if a construction project exceeds $1.5 million, we're required to hire an OPM. We need to develop this RFS and then submit the RFS to MSBA for approval. Once it's approved, we can then advertise the RFS, solicit responses. We would then review the responses for an owner's project manager and then submit our recommendation to MSBA for approval and then ultimately sign a contract with the owner's project manager. The next step in the process, and we're hoping to have this done by either early September or late September. We've also met with Bill Yukna and discussed what we need to do, and he is actually reviewing paperwork and indicated that he would be able to help us with this RFS, given that the town had hired an OPM for the fire department, for the public safety building. Once the OPM is in place, we will then have to develop another RFS, request for services, for an architect designer. We need to submit the RFS to MSBA for approval, and then we can advertise the RFS. We'll solicit qualification statements through this RFS, and then submit all of the qualification statements that we receive to MSBA for the designer selection panel, known as the DSP, to review and come back to the town with the top 3 architect designers, with an expectation that the town would sign a contract with the top architect. And hopefully at that point, the architect will be in place sometime in the fall and be able to provide us preliminary information in terms of costs that would allow us at the next town meeting, annual town meeting in May of 2009, to have an article to fund the renovations.
Thank you. Paul, any questions?
It was a great presentation. We get everybody certainly has a lot to do between now and May, it seems like, but it's great that we're this far along in the process.
You guys won't get the summer off?
I commend you for all the work you've done so far, Paul, and Dr. Martis and the school committee. I know, is Catherine Craven still?
Yes.
And I know that they've done a great job in trying to turn that around. So it's a good program, and I think the town and the citizens need to understand, how far we've come in this process and how much it means, because these repairs need to get done. And if it's not for this grant, then they still need to get done, and we're looking elsewhere for funding. So,
well, what the state has told us, Paul, is that they want Foxboro to be the model. They believe that too many communities let their buildings crumble, and then they come hat in hand looking for $50 million or $100 million. And they commended us at our meeting in December for the way that we've kept our buildings up, the investments we've made, and they look at the cost of getting this 40-year-old building to current standards to be very inexpensive relative to allowing a building to fall into disrepair. And so when you look at windows, they're 40 years old. You look at a heating system, they're 40 years old. You look at the roof, they're saying these are the kinds of things that if they invest in now, it will add another 20, 25 years to that building. And so they want to use us as the model across the state, and that's why we've been pushing all along to be the first one up and to be able to be that model, because we think working with them in a positive way will allow us to do all the things we need at that building, not just some of the infrastructure things.
And the thank you and praise for that leg of the work goes to Mike O'Leary and his incredible crew that have spent numerous hours in the upkeep of this.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you anticipate Foxboro's piece of that versus the state's?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Paul. I think that where the floor on this is 48.6%, and then there are some incentives that are built in. We're not sure yet which incentives we would qualify for. So I don't want to put a number out there that's a number that we may not be able to hit for one reason or another that may have nothing to do with what what we're able to do or not able to do. So, my sense is somewhere in the 50% range, and then we'll look at the incentives from there. So, and try to get as many as we possibly can for community use and green building. Those kinds of things will be things that we'll be looking closely at. So that's something that we'll continue to update the board, and we'll be updating the committee about as we move forward in the next few months.
And do you have a sense of the total project cost?
At this point in time, no. We were talking about a $13 or $14 million project from the McGuire Group report. That's a couple of years old now, so I think that I don't think the costs are going down on that. So we're not sure yet. That's where the feasibility study will be important for us to really get the final cost on what we think will be. They may even add some things that even the McGuire Group didn't see in terms of getting that building to a standard that we want to make sure that it's going to last another long period of time.
Paul, the other complexity with this feasibility that's important is what the feasibility will do is not only kind of figure out what has to be done and what the cost is, but more importantly, the timing. Because as an example, there are certain things we can only do when there's no students in school. And so this project is complicated because you can only do so much in that first summer. And so it'll be a fairly complicated process to identify everything that has to be done, when you can do it during the school year, and then what can you do during the summer and what can you do during the school year. So that's one of the things that will also factor into the cost.
Right. Good, thank you.
James? Well, Larry, you anticipated what I was interested in is the planning for the phasing.
Yeah, right.
And if it were a perfect world, Paul, and the money was appropriated in the springtime, I would anticipate construction next summer.
Yes.
And so, given that, and Larry, what you were just touching on, what do you foresee as the 2-year project, 18 months?
Well,
Could go to 3.
we were thinking it would be in the 2 to 3 year, depending on how they can cycle certain things in.
But that will have the negative effect of kicking up the cost.
That's correct.
So,
Right.
It could end up being a third summer, for instance, because that's obviously the peak time when we could do as much work as possible. We get all the crews in and have everyone out of the building. So if we were able to start next summer and then look at how do we phase it, and what we'll end up doing is taking some of the building offline with students and staff during the year and looking at phasing that. I mean, there are some things that we can do while students are in the building too. So.
I imagine that your study's going to give you some answers.
That's
as to,
correct.
Do we do windows first?
Right.
That's the
heating
question.
system. those
Yeah,
kinds
they're
of
going to
things.
balance some things, Jim, between costs, like as you say, the windows and the heating will save us a lot of money at the cost of heating today. On the other hand, there's certain asbestos and other kinds of things that has to be done first. So the reason why the state has changed the process to the way they have is since they're going to be paying, in this case, probably half or a little bit more, they want to understand that we've got the right people behind it, we got the right plan behind it, we know what the right costs are. And too often what they've said is when these projects start, not that this ever happens to a contractor, but you start and then new things come up that you didn't think about. And you start to take this apart and all of a sudden there's 3 new things that have to be done. So the reason why they want to go through this process up front is to try to make sure that both sides understand going in what all the surprises could be, so that when we go to town meeting for money and they go to the state for the sign-off, we're both pretty comfortable. We've got a good ballpark number and there won't be any surprises.
That never happens at all.
I know.
James, you
But
all
we're
set?
trying.
When would we expect to hear again on progress in the fall?
I think in the fall we'll come back when we know more about who we've selected and how we've gone through that selection process, and then maybe we'll have at least a rough timeline of what we're going to be doing in the fall and the winter, and we'd be glad to come back anytime we think we can give you some more information.
Thanks, Chris. Linda?
Well, that's what I was going to ask was, will you come back to us in September then when you go out for the, let's see if I can get this right, Paul, the RFS for the OPM. The window here.
We needed some notes on the side to tell us exactly what that looks So I could-
Paul got us a cheat
So
sheet.
we'll share that with you too. So
Right away.
you'll be coming back in front of us then,
Yes.
I would assume, because
Yeah.
we would probably have to sign off on some of
Well-
this stuff or not.
We're not sure about that, but
Oh,
one of
okay.
the other good reasons to come back is that we want not only the people who see the school committee meetings to know what's going on, but we want people who are watching the selectmen's meetings along with the press to be able to
that's
continue
great.
to educate the public about what our needs are. So that's very important to us.
Great. Yep.
Thank you, Chris.
Mark, can I ask one?
Oh,
One
sure.
piece of business for the committee, part of the MSBA regulations is to put school representation on the building committee, and Dr. Mars has sent me a memo, which I've given to the board, to make 3 additional ex officio appointments. Dr. Mars, Paul Jackson, and Jeff Deotis as ex officio members of the permanent municipal building committee.
The board needs to vote on that.
Yes.
Paul, you got one more question?
Just a very quick question. Do you have any sense that the state might pull the rug out from under us, with the state being in tough shape, or no, you feel good
No,
about that?
this is, I think there's a lot of momentum behind getting this program, as you mentioned, Paul, getting this program back online again. We went through a 2-year moratorium with the former program, and there's a lot of need out there, so I think that we're going to move ahead with this. Andy, the other piece is I think the school committee needs to select someone as well, so I think that we need a school committee member on the group. Am I right, Paul?
Do you want us to hold off on this?
So why don't we hold off on that for now, and then
Okay.
we'll put it all together.
All right.
We were just trying to give you the information that we were getting from
Okay.
MSBA.
All set, Andy?
I'll say.
Well, thank you. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate the update, the board does. And I know, I can just look at your faces and know this is all going to happen. Because
Exciting.
I can look at people and I see confidence, and I see confidence all of you, and I'm really excited for this project. Martha?
I think we all learned a very valuable lesson in this town to never let a school get down to the point that the Ahern School did, and that's what we're trying to avoid here.
I will also say it's a good thing we started all those years ago, because by the time we get to it, we're talking a 5-year plan. This board came to us October of '06. You toured the school. It'll be just a year that you signed the paperwork with us. So it really is a partnership on both sides, the school committee and the selectmen, and now working with the state. And I think it's so important to keep everyone informed and involved. So thank you for your partnering with us as well.
And people need to realize, school committee, advisory committee, board of selectmen, we're all civic volunteers. Everybody puts a lot of time and effort into this with no pay and a lot of aggravation. And you really need to, recognize the good points, not just the bad points, because everybody works hard for your community, which is our community. So I really appreciate what you guys do for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
We have some chairs up here for you. Free chair right here. Can I get that?
About down there.
Oh, almost on schedule.
Yeah.
Being 7:30, Robert Hickey and the NRCC and Hollingworth and Bowes, I believe that's what the H&B is for. To discuss the Neponset Dam.
Tell you what we're going to do is we're going to try and make this as brief as possible, because I know you have a packed agenda and there's a lot of people here that want to participate in other things. We're not going to ask you for sign off on the agreement tonight. It would be an unfair thing to do, and also it would give you an opportunity to read the memorandum of understanding that we finalized as of today. I guess you should pass these around. I have a number of people here that are available to answer questions, as well as a number of concerned citizens, and I believe the newly formed Friends of the Neponset Reservoir also are here just to watch and be part of this momentous opportunity to create a long-term solution to a...
Bob, do you have another one? I'm sorry.
Certainly do.
Never mind. We got
No,
Yep.
we still got it.
Mine. Very good. Okay, as we know, back in 2005, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody in the room, you probably know more than I do about this. Back in May of 2005, there was, starting in April, there was grave concern on part of the owners of the Neponset Reservoir Dam. Everybody knows what the dam is? Ms. Peterson, if I could trouble you just a point. We're very high-tech here at the NRC. There you go, very good. Also wanted to point out that the NRC is a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen. So I'm on your side and I'm on the town side. Andy and I have been working on this now off and on for a year and a half, I believe.
All of that.
All of that. In April of 2005, Hollingworth and Bowes, as the primary shareholder of the NRC, which is a corporation that owns the Neponset Reservoir Dam, not to be confused with the NRC, which is our town subcommittee. So that's the first piece of confusion I hope to flesh out here. They sent a notice that they were going to be forced to lower the water level in the dam due to concerns of the safety and integrity of the dam. They have a consultant, and I represent the consulting firms here, Par Engineering, to answer any questions you might have about that as well. They sent an emergency notice that they're going to remove, I believe it was 3 boards at the time, and they wanted to remove all remaining 6 boards unless immediate repairs could be made to the dam. The water level was lowered by 3 boards. It's been that way since. There's a concern on their part that the dam's structural integrity has been weakened over the last 150 years, 160 years, due to tree roots and wear and tear and the other things that get into a dam. What that left us with is a problem. As you know, we're still in the midst of the cadmium study, the process of the DEP, in which they're analyzing the potential harmful effects of water encapsulated versus airborne versus polluting cadmium in the Neponset Reservoir, which was done through permitted discharges from the former Foxboro company back decades ago. That is separate from the phosphorus issue that was also part of their dumping, but which was resolved through an agreement with Inventus and the town, as we know, several years ago, that created the, if we're ready for it, the NRRC, which is the nonprofit organization that serves as a caretaker group to administer the phosphorus mitigation funding that the town negotiated with Inventus to get. So those are the players that are on the town side, except the NRRC is not a municipal entity. They do not have an affiliation with town government, although as members, as part of their bylaws, the Board of Selectmen has appointing authority for a couple of members. Andy Gala sits on the NRRC. You recently appointed Linda Walsh to be on the NRRC. Sitting on the NRRC also is Judy Johnson, member of the Conservation Commission, Paul Mullen of the Board of Health. Am I missing anybody? I'm not on the NRRC any longer. I lost my seat when I lost the elections. So I have no affiliation with the NRRC. Getting this agreement, 2005, we first learned of the condition of the dam. Over the course of the next year and a half, NRC, Bob Kimball being the representative, and their attorney, Attorney Dieter Murphy is here also, worked to create internally some sort of a solution. They weren't able to achieve one. They finally filed, and help me out, Judy, a letter of intent to permanently lower the reservoir level or to effect repairs. However, they didn't have the funding necessary to effect full repairs that would bring the water back up to its historical levels where we all want it to be, we as a town. If the water levels are permanently lowered, several things would happen. One, property values would decrease dramatically around the lake. Two, there would be things exposed that perhaps we don't want to have exposed. Latent cadmium poisoning would then have the opportunity to become airborne. The effects of that haven't been thoroughly studied by the DEP. However, some questions perhaps are best left unasked, and this is a great opportunity to see that if we're able to raise the water level back up to historical highs, it won't be an issue that's thrust on our lap, which could create a huge liability for the town as well as a public safety and health issue for the neighbors and the surrounding properties. And then finally, as a recreational source for the community, boating, active boating, hiking, kayaking, that area around the lake would be in danger of having fencing put up around it, riprap put around it to protect the soil, which would now be exposed to the air, from becoming a pollutant. And that's all a real danger that came up during the 2005 review of the situation. So we, the members of the Board of Selectmen, being aware of that, responded a year and a half ago when the Conservation Commission and the NRC through Hollingworth and Vose had the proposal that, look, we have X amount of dollars that can be used to fund this dam, but we're not a bottomless pit. This is what we're able to do. We're able to do partial repairs on the dam. A number of citizens, many of them who are here, I see many more now than I did then, which is great. That means people are getting active and involved with the reservoir. Asked the Board of Selectmen to do something. So our board, for those of you who were on the board at the time, remember that we said, all right, let's take a look at it, see what we can do. The one mandate that we had was that we effect a solution at zero taxpayer expense. We didn't want to create another purchased piece of property. That's, although it sounds easy, it's not the solution we had. Tight budget times mean that you don't have cash just to go out and make capital acquisition. Additionally, there's a significant liability issue of an unrepaired dam that would have to be repaired by the town. And then finally, you have the issue of, all right, if we get the dam, what then? Are we responsible for this or responsible for that? We don't know enough about it. So the board appointed myself and Andy to do a little research. So we did that research. We did a lot of digging and also some discussion. And I think we've created a wonderful solution for the town. The zero taxpayer expense mandate has been honored. Through cooperation with some community groups, NRRC, which is a nonprofit organization created by the settlement, has agreed to participate. Invencis, as a corporate citizen, has agreed to participate. And believe it or not, the former Tyco, which is now Covidian, has agreed to participate. Why would Tyco participate? NRC was created in 1847 to own and manage the water via the dam on the reservoir. Those 11 corporations and companies, privately and publicly held companies that started the NRC, only 2 remain. They're both legacy companies. One is Hollingworth and Vose, that's taken a leadership role in it, in the active management and the annual drawdowns and everything else that goes into the management of that lake and working of the dam. And Tyco Covidian. So that's how they became a part of this. If you skip ahead to page 2, the meat and potatoes of it is that the dam repair, which was originally estimated to be $950,000, is going to be effected to fully restore the dam, to allow for the historical water levels to be reintroduced, meaning it's to be raised back up another 1.5 feet. And what that'll do is allow several things to take place. One, the NRRC, which is responsible for the phosphate cleanup by the agreement, will be able to go forward and do that starting in the spring. The danger is that the water level is significantly reduced. We're going to have to go through and redo all the studies because the mitigation plan that we have, the presentation that was given us 3 months ago by our consultant, what's been published, that's all based upon a full basin of water. There's also the report from that same consultant, Ken Wagner, who many of you may remember being part of the panel that studied the cadmium and phosphate issue and reported back at the Rural School in 2004. He reported that for every board taken out, every 6 cents reduction in depth works out to a significant more amount of shoreline that's exposed. He estimated, and please correct me if I'm wrong back there, he estimated that if the boards were all removed, if the 6 boards were removed, I think we would lose, what, 8 feet of shoreline? That would effectively reduce the capacity of the lake in half, right? Half, okay. So we would lose half the capacity of the lake. What would that do to our property values? What would that do to the quality of life? And what would that do to the exposed sediment? It's a question I don't want to ask, and I don't think anybody does. So what we have here is a solution. We're funding it completely. It's going to be repaired by Hollingworth and Vose, Power Consulting. And then once it's fully repaired, they would like to give it as a gift to the town to take ownership of. That's a huge win for the town also, because what we end up getting, unlike these other 5 dams that we're currently faced with hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars worth of repairs with, is that we're not taking it off of tax rolls. We're being gifted a completely renovated dam. I think you're allowed to say it has a 30, 35-year lifetime, but the one that's there now has been there for at least 160 years. Let's not kid ourselves, the dam will be fine. When this dam is fully repaired, it will also allow us to reintroduce the annual flushing. For those of you who know the Neponset Reservoir, and I don't live on the reservoir, so you can speak much better this than I can, But for those who live on the reservoir, there are the periodic algae blooms, the weeds, and everything else that goes into a slow-moving, sometimes stagnant body of water that needs to be flushed. What has happened in the past, up until 3 years ago, was that there's an annual drawdown. And the annual drawdown was really the only tool that we had as a community to flush out the garbage, and then it would recharge over the winter with the winter snows, ice, and runoff, and then it would be ready for spring again. With the money now given to the town, to the NRRC through the settlement, we now have the ability to take a more active approach to lake management and cleaning the lake. That's a good thing. If the dam is not repaired and the water levels are not brought back up to the historical heights, what is the mitigation going to be? Because a significant part of that cleanliness, of cleaning it, is the cleansing act of drawing down the water. If we lose that ability, then we have a puddle. And that's not a good thing. So, I'm not going to ask you to take a vote tonight. What I'd like you to do is take the opportunity, if you could, to ask any questions of all the people in the room. We've got attorneys, we've got consultants, we have people to Concom, we've got folks who are here as a resource for you. What I'd also like to do is ask you over the course of the next week if you have any other questions or any comments on the memorandum. And this is the Memorandum of Understanding, and you'll see it's marked up. I intentionally left the markings in there so you can see the changes that have happened since that draft was unfortunately published 2 weeks ago. That was a draft. This is a draft also. If there's anything in there that you don't like, don't see, don't want, let me know. We'll finish crafting it. I'd like to leave next Tuesday as a deadline for that so we can give the attorneys time to do what they do best. And then I'll get it out to you in time for your packets on Friday. What I'd ask is that the next meeting you be able to take a vote on this and accept the gift of the fully repaired deposit reservoir to the town. Of course, this is going to require town meeting vote. And the other part of it is that we asked that at a special meeting in August, September, October, hopefully August, but whenever the need happens, that the Board of Selectmen put this on the docket as a warrant article and endorse it as being a positive thing for the town and give the town the opportunity to vote on whether they want to accept this gift. So that all of Foxboro can enjoy the recreational benefits, so that the property owners can enjoy life without having to worry about a polluted body of water, and worse than that, a polluted beachfront, and worse, that the town doesn't lose tax revenue over reduced property values. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Very well said.
Thank you.
I'm going to open it up to the citizens. We're going to, a couple of people I'd like to hear from. You know, any of the citizens on the lake want to speak. Now would be your opportunity. Excuse me.
I live on the Ponset Reservoir on 90 Ridge Road.
And your name again?
Sheila Warner.
Sheila.
And I'd like to share just a few things.
Okay.
I'd like to say that the reservoir has obviously a rich history of recreational use, and some of the assets that were used on this body of water long before it had any pollution or contamination problems. It supported 2 boat marinas for over 4 decades. And as you can see by this map, there's a lot of public land around the reservoir, a lot of public access around the reservoir, and a lot of interest for the town of Foxboro. We have 2 of our public drinking water wells on the shore and all the beautiful land around that. And I know that was a very expensive proposition to the town, the last well that was put in. Those wells need to be protected and preserved, and this body of water affects or can affect what goes on with those wells, both the contamination that's in it that we're trying to remediate, as well as any action that is taken and how it will affect them. That is an interest to this town. The Lane property, which is over 90 acres, was a very expensive piece of land, a beautiful piece of land, and unique in a lot of ways. It has 3 miles of shorefront, it has an island, it has hay fields, it has a beautiful trail through it. It offers a lot to the town, as long as the body of water next to it is there and still pristine and looks nice to look at and not terrible to smell and not want to go near. The 335 acres of water, open water, surface water here, is full of wildlife, full of birds, full of reptiles, full of fish. We should be protecting that and preserving that. Shame on us in the past that we didn't. And I want to make sure that everything that happens in the future doesn't make us end up in the condition that we were in. And I'd like to send these around as a reminder. These were all taken in the late 90s, but for 16 years, a lot of us who couldn't just walk away lived with these conditions. 16 years. And you could not see 1.5 feet into the water. And if you happened to live on the shores there and your child fell off the edge of a dock, you wouldn't be able to see them to pick them out. Shame on us as a community for allowing that to happen. But for the past 22 years, there's been a large group of volunteers that have been working hard to try to bring back this resource to the town of Foxboro. It has a lot to offer. And I think part of the reason that it looks like that is because we didn't, as a community, take responsibility for it. This is not a puddle. It's 335 acres. It's one of the largest bodies of water in Norfolk County. It deserves our protection. It deserves our attention. And it's not for a few. It's for the whole town. And it should be restored back to the whole town. So I'd ask you to please take any action that you can take to put, we're talking about water rights here. You know, this body of water has always been Foxboro's. It's always been completely in the shores of Foxboro. It's always been publicly used by Foxboro people. The Hollingworth and Bow and the companies behind that, they own the water flowage rights and they manage the dam, but it's always been our resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. And Sheila, when those pictures are taken, I did live on the lake, just so you know that.
That's why you no longer live on the lake.
Well, we had our third child, my house was too small.
I just have to add one thing. I'd like to report, because of the flushing that went on for 15 years, and that's the only thing that we've been able to do, we can see 5 feet down into the water in the middle of August now. So I'm thankful for that flushing, and anything we can do to get those water levels back up so we can continue is important.
There's one piece that I wanted to mention also. I didn't know if it was going to come up, but I had heard after, over the course of weeks, that there's a concern about liability. Let me just share that we, the town, already own 65% of the land underneath the water, and we already own 1/3 of the property surrounding the lake. So, I would only suggest that while, I, among all others, as a former member of this board, very concerned about liability and taking on additional liability, I think if you do a risk analysis here, though, we avoid, or we avert, or we take care of a lot of open liability by taking ownership of this dam. We then control the level of the water. We then control the flow and the annual flushing. And then we as a town have the ability to manage that water, so that way 10, 15 years from now we're not put in a situation where, say, a company who maybe owns it down the road gives up and leaves it and we take it on tax roll, or it gets sold to somebody that has other plans, or they go ahead, not they, H&B, but they, some other company that might acquire it, would say, well, we don't like the liability, we don't really care what you do. We're going to lower it 6 boards and there's nothing you can do about it. I think a lot of credit here goes to Hollingworth and Bow and Attorney Murphy, who's worked very hard on this, along with Attorney Gellerman, who over the course of the last year and a half have listened to our hopes and somehow made it become a reality. And one of my favorite conference calls was with the attorney for Inventus, which also should be commended for stepping up the plate and funding this, even though they don't have to, as well as the NRRC, which certainly doesn't have to contribute any funding. And he said, so Bob, tell me at the end of the day, you just want everybody to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. And that is true. That's what I want. I think we had the agreement there, and that's really what I'd like us to do in 2 weeks, is to be able to say, it's all good, let's sign this, and let's make it happen.
Anybody else want to be heard?
I'll just make one additional comment. Chris Mellon, 1 Monroe Street again. Many of the points were made. The yellow areas are the public access areas. I think you, as the leaders of our town, have a unique opportunity at this point to see something through that's been worked on for many, many years, and basically be credited for a major accomplishment that we're just about at the finish line, that you, as leaders of the town, can take credit for, as is members of the town who support this taking over the dam and moving on to other issues. The town's been dealing with this for a long time. We're almost to the point where the town doesn't have to.
Well,
Thank you.
it all comes down to this town meeting. So the way this board would support it or not support it, to get it on the docket, as Bob calls, and go to town meeting, that's where it all comes down to play. And it seems to me, sometimes we lose focus that it's about the whole town, not just one particular part of the town. And if you see lately, we've got an area of town that's in litigation with the town. We have another area of town that doesn't want a roundabout, that this board listens to very much. You got another area of town that wants a dam fixed. But when it comes down to it, it's about the whole town. It's not just about your little part, their little part, this part. And those are the things I just want to remind you, everybody, because there seems to be a separation everywhere. And it needs to be more brought back together so everybody cares. The sewer is another big issue where the whole town needs to kick in to help these people that need sewer, especially you, around that reservoir, and not just those certain people.
Although the sewer does not, the 9 districts they've talked about doesn't include the reservoir.
I'm not sure about that. I think there's 13. There's 13.
I've been told by the Water and Sewer Commissioners that I would not be impacted by this.
Oh,
And
you're
I
on the
live on
other
Shoreline
side.
Drive.
Yeah, you're on the other side.
Ridge Road and that side.
Ridge Road and Neponset and Kersey, all on that side would be affected. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think that while there may be, if a first blush look at it might be that this is just a bunch of neighbors getting together, but I think we also have to remember that this was the Board of Selectmen that wanted to make something happen. And the entire community benefits if property tax valuation is maintained.
Oh, and
the recreation opportunities here affect the entire town. And so, with all due respect to some of the other issues, I think if we took a more global look at this, we'd see that there's benefits to the entire community. That's why I feel strongly that this board did the right thing a year and a half ago, getting involved, and I think that this conclusion is a big win for the town as a whole.
I understand what you're saying, Bob, but my statement is not to belittle this situation at all. It's what I'm saying, that everybody should be concerned with everybody in town, not just one side or one little piece. That's my point. And I just want to see people be more united in the town. Sir, are you over there?
They want it 90 Ridge Road. So you're saying that if, say, the companies downstream go out of business,
That's pretty harsh. Why don't we say the companies downstream sell to another company?
or whatever, we could be stuck holding the bag anyways. Is that what you're saying? And then having to come up with the money and
If the house on the corner fails to pay their taxes and we take it over through a lien or through tax taking, that's true. So the difference between that and a dam. Well, I guess the question is, how do we get ownership of the other 5 dams, Andy?
Other town history, Bob Bodie and the Concom members might know. I'm not sure. Some of it may have been gifts. Bob, the question was raised, how did the town get ownership of the other 5 dams that we own?
I don't have an answer for that, Andy. I know we're responsible for the upper reservoir, and that's being worked on, but I'm not sure about the history of the other ones. That one's, that's under private control. Beaumont's Pond is private control.
Well, the nice thing about this outcome is that we don't have to worry about that, and that we'll have a fully repaired dam that we won't, assuming Par Engineering is the company they say they are, that we won't have to have this type of an issue for a long, long time.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Just real quickly, Mr. Chairman, Bob, you had mentioned it, but I don't know if I got it right in my notes. Liability's been raised to us numerous times over the last couple of weeks once people know that we were discussing this. Did you say 65% of the land?
It's not an exact estimate because the town doesn't tax itself.
Right.
And the best I've been able to come up with are these plats off of the tax rolls. So if you look at this plot, for example, 481, that's town property, but there's no way to, and I'm certainly not going to spend town funds to get a surveyor out there.
Right.
But there's a significant amount of land underneath the water that is owned or been gifted to or been abandoned and now is owned by the town. Because if we remember when this was first flooded back in the day, people owned it, but who's going to continue to pay taxes on water that's on land that's underwater? I suspect that's how we got it. I can't say for sure. But a lot of this conservation land has been gifted to the town. This is the Lane property. So just...
It was all, at one time, a vacation spot, Paul. I'm not sure you were that.
Right. So, I mean, the town is already a major stakeholder anyways.
Exactly.
Liabilities.
And that's an excellent point. Looking at this from the very beginning, we were concerned, and town council agreed with us, that we didn't want to take ownership of land and accept a liability, an unknown liability, and worse, an unfunded liability, based upon what could happen through a DEP finding for the cadmium pollution. The assurances that we've been able to give ourselves are that we already own, we're a significant stakeholder, as you term it, so much of the land underneath that we're in it. We're in the soup, so to speak, no matter what happens. But then the pollutant is the owner of the pollution. And if you go into the 21E statute, you can dig into that a little bit further. But DEP holds Invencis, which took over in Foxboro Company, so it's not Invencis the polluter, it's Foxboro Company, as the sole owners of the pollution, if you will, and they're responsible for not only the study going through, but also will likely be held for mitigation at the end, even if the finding is, on one side of the spectrum they do a full cleanup and dredging, or on the other end of the spectrum they do absolutely nothing, nature will take its course. We don't know what that's going to be. We'd rather let that happen than rather force the issue through a Superfund site with airborne contaminants.
Sure. All right, and just ideally, take me through the timeline and the process again. And I appreciate having a couple weeks to just kind of go through all the material, and I know the MOU was just drafted, so I'd like some time to look at it. But so ideally, we look at this, we come back in a couple weeks, this board takes a vote. In the ideal scenario, what happens as far as a timeline from there?
Great. What we would like to see happen is that this board take a vote in 2 weeks to sign off on the agreement, which allows for private funding of the repair of the dam. And as part of the agreement, the town is involved only because Hollingworth and those acting through the NRC, the corporation, would then gift this plot of land that makes up the dam, this little rectangle that is the dam, and then whatever residual land they own behind that in the reservoir, gift it to the town. Since it's a gift to the Board of Selectmen, to the town, through the Board of Selectmen, it requires town meeting vote. We felt that was the best way to get a true measure of the community's desire to do this. So what we'd like is your support of a very well-crafted agreement that creates a minimal risk and great upside solution to a problem that we were presented with a year and a half ago, and to give the town the opportunity to be sold on the project and to vote in the affirmative that they would like to accept it as a gift, fully repaired. And the town would not accept it, by the way, until it was 30 days after the complete repairs and sign-off. So it would not be a situation where we vote on it at, say, an August town meeting, and then September 10th we get the dam mid-repair. The dam would have to be completely repaired, signed off on, certified that it's fully functional before it was gifted to the town. And that would be presumably what the wording of the warrant article would stipulate.
Thank you.
Paul?
Yes, thanks, Bob. That was very helpful. I think I actually understand it now the way you explained it.
I cannot always be accused of being clear like that, so I appreciate that.
Can you just help me understand better exactly who is removing the boards? It's H&V through NRC, is that it?
No. Well, H&V through NRC does the board removal, but they also work in conjunction with the Conservation Commission every year to manage the flow of the dam.
Right.
So they do that through our, Bill Hocking has always been the one who's taken the leadership role, and through the Conservation Commissioner, they've worked with H&V to do the annual drawdown, and then they also put the board back in. Then what happened in 2005 is some boards were permanently removed, and unless the dam is able to be fully repaired, the letter of intent is that they'd like to remove the remaining 6.
I guess what I'm asking is, or driving at is, are they, it sounds like that's a bad thing, more boards removed from what you've said. And is someone using that as a stick to say, hey, Tom, you better take it or we're going to, leave you?
I hear what you're saying. I don't believe that there's any threat implied. In fact, I was very impressed with the people from H&V who could have, and quite honestly, if I was running the company, I probably would have said, the liability is too great. We know how town government works. A, it works slowly. B, you got to think about it. C, you got to vote on it. We as a company may not be willing to take that liability. To their credit, through Bob Kimball and Dear Murphy, they accepted the town's participation trying to create a solution, which is also commendable based upon the fact that we had a mandate from that meeting saying that the town's not going to pay for it and buy it. So they had a lot of trust in us, this board's ability to go out there and form a solution. And so I think the private partnership that's been created to fund this, each stakeholder has a piece of it, but at the same time, no one party has to contribute. Nobody, the NRRC, Inventus, or Tyco Kindle, or H&V, neither one of them really have call to contribute anything more than go through the whole process and see what happens. But each one of these parties, the NRRC, because it would cost money to redo our phosphate mitigation plan, and also because the quality of life requires that our mandate, if you will, is that we're supposed to have a clean body of water. Well, if there's no body of water, then what's there to clean? So that's the NRRC's, I believe, rationale behind contributing funding. Inventus as a corporate partner, and also with an understanding that they're participating in the cadmium ongoing review through DEP, they have an ownership stake. And then Tyco Kendall and H&V as shareholders of the 1847 corporation.
And is removing the boards more than, let's say, you would hope that they would? Is that an indication from them that they think, oh, geez, we're more afraid of imminent failure than not, or just prudence, would you say?
I think that, and I guess the question comes back with the other 5 dams that we have also that were rated between unsafe and an imminent danger. What is the liability? What does the insurance company say? And as we all know, the insurance companies have a big say in how we do our lives. I don't drive 90 miles per hour because I'll get a ticket, my insurance rates will go up. That's considered unsafe driving. If the boards are put back up now without repair of the dam, Power Engineering, that can answer this question much better than I, has said that the dam is in imminent danger of failure. Now, how do you define failure? I don't know, but if you're living downstream, you probably have a bigger concern about what failure is defined at than if you live upstream.
Right.
The outcome, however, would be a broken dam. The immediate solution is to simply decommission the dam, take out the boards. One of the solutions for one of the 5 dams that we have is to do just that. Mm-hmm. Breach it. It's a big puddle anyway. It's not going to harm anything, but if the dam breaches and all the water comes out at once, that could harm downstream, including the secondary dam that would then have an impact of water. You have Crack Rock Pond, which is the holding water for the deposit reservoir's outflow. If all that water were to rush downstream all at once, what would the devastating be on Crack Rock Pond, which is already having a dam issue where North Street crosses over? Again, these are all solutions that or outcomes that we studied, and we believe that it's important that this dam stay in place and that this solution on how to make that dam stay in place is a good one. Right. So that's what the outcome also, just in clear sense, is that you lose 50% of the capacity of the reservoir if you take out the boards, which means that your reservoir, which now has an immediate depth, I think an average depth of what, 6 feet, 8 feet?
4 feet.
4 feet, thank you. You'll now have an average depth of less than 2 feet, because if you think about the deepest spots, parts that are 2 feet are all going to dry up. So if you think about volume of water out and exposed cadmium pollutants with the neighborhood, that's what we're talking about.
Right. So obviously, if you're them, you spend this is short money to take care of the problem versus removing the boards and then having to deal with being hectored by the town.
And you actually mentioned about the money. I did ask Power Engineering, if I could trouble you to just make a brief statement. I did hear that there was a concern about tens of thousands of dollars to maintain the dam. I would hope that the Board of Selectmen would have a little faith in our ability to create a solution that didn't impact negatively town services. Could you just share with us what the annual maintenance schedule would be for maintaining the fully repaired reservoir dam?
Certainly.
My name is Matt Belial, and I'm with ARC Corporation. We're actually located here in Foxboro, and we've been working with the NRC for several years evaluating the structure. And once the structure is repaired, it will be up to current state standards. It will be a earthen embankment, looking very similar to what is there now, with a stone upstream face. It'll be riprap. It'll provide erosion protection and limit the vegetation growth through there. And then the downstream side of it, the lower side, the dry side, would be a grassed surface. So really the maintenance for the structure is going to be keep the grass mowed. I mean, it really comes down to that. You don't want the woody vegetation to grow up on the dam. If you can keep that under control, a lot of the issues that have occurred over the last 150 years don't develop, and you don't have that aging effect on the dam itself. And then the other thing is just keep it clean. You know, go out there periodically, make sure that the trash doesn't accumulate, make sure erosion isn't occurring on the slopes. But really, what we've seen is that to keep a dam maintained, one of this size, municipalities are setting aside $3,000 a year. They go out and they mow it a couple times a year. We recommend it a minimum twice a year, but for a facility like this, you might want to mow it a little bit more frequently because you're going to encourage some recreational use out there. But again, it's really straightforward once you get this operations plan in place and you keep it going.
I'll mow it and keep it clean. How's that?
There's also the offer by several people to kick in and buy the highway department a weed whacker. So I think there's support out there amongst the friends and amongst people to make this work.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for the questions.
Bob, are they saying if we don't take the gift, they won't fix it?
I don't think they've said that. I think that we as a town looked at several different options. There's also the opportunity that it be gifted to the Conservation Commission. Conservation Commission, quite frankly, doesn't have a highway department. In looking at this situation, I think that my recommendation is that the town have an opportunity to vote on acceptance and that the Board of Selectmen have the opportunity to manage this recreation piece of water. And part of that reason is because we as a community also may, 10, 20, 50 years down the road, want to have town-run opportunities there. I'm not saying we do. I'm talking about the future. Just as with the Route 1 mitigation, we ended up with a 20-acre parcel of land because who knows, someday maybe we might want to do something up there with a substation. Is there anything in the works now, 10, 20 years? No. 50 years, 100 years? Maybe. So a lot of this is how do you put this to bed and never have to deal with it again? I can't really answer that for Hollingworth and Bose. I don't know if you want to address that. It's never really come up, but.
I can address it. I'm Deirdre Murphy. I'm a director of the Neponset Reservoir Company, and I'm the general counsel of Hollingsworth and Bose Company. And I just actually want to thank the Board of Selectmen for creating the Neponset Reservoir Committee so we had someone to work with on the Neponset Reservoir Dam. I would say, in answer to your question, that I think this is a unique opportunity that doesn't present itself very often, where a number of parties, public and private, have greatly differing interests when it comes to the dam and the reservoir, and we've been able to, over a period of about a year and a half, discuss our differences, but more importantly, what we have in common, and we've come up with this solution, and I think it's a win-win for everybody. So I'd just like to thank you.
James? So would you go on the record and say that in the event town meeting doesn't pass it, you're still going to pay to repair it?
I have to say that it's been made clear from the beginning when we filed our first NOI with the Conservation Commission that all of the parties are interested in contributing the money, provided that the town does take ownership of this asset as a gift at the end of the process.
I take that as a no, James.
So the answer to the question is no gift, no repair. Correct?
Then we get to fix it.
Try and keep it in order, please. James?
Is Randy Scholars weighed in on this issue?
Last week at our meeting.
He wasn't, he was cautious.
Right, we're cautious about any future state requirements or any other liability. We don't know at this time.
And Bob, you said the Conservation Commission didn't have a highway department, but in the memo earlier, maybe Mr. Bodie can...
Excuse me, the memo earlier was not an agreement, so I really can't speak to it.
It was, the Conservation didn't accept it because they were concerned about future maintenance and liability issues. What happened with the Concom on that issue, Bob?
I'm not sure what memo are you talking about?
Are you looking at?
That was Andy's memo to the board.
Well, could we see that?
Well, maybe there is no, is there any history of the Conservation Commission looking at this dam and wondering whether to accept it as conservation land?
Well, let me speak to that. Okay, the NRC never formally came before the Conservation Commission. I just gave my recommendation that I felt as though it was probably unlikely that the Conservation Commission was going to accept the dam.
Was it for maintenance and liability issues, Judy?
I would say we don't have a budget for this. We don't have budget to maintain dams.
And if I could also add, part of the motivation of the town taking over is I'm a big believer in checks and balances. Any body that has too much power ends up not having the controls in place. The Conservation Commission would serve as a check for the flow of the water in the annual drawdown, and also as a check on the NRRC, which is mandated by the agreement to do phosphate mitigation and cleanliness. I think it's a good tri-partnership or a good grouping of community and government agencies that will ensure that the best outcome always comes with the reservoir, even if one group wants to do something. Maybe we want to build a recreation shack in the middle of Blueberry Island. Conservation says no, that's a good check and balance. NRRC wants to make a phosphate dumping station. The Board of Selectmen say no. I mean, who knows? As part of this agreement, I was trying to look at the entire community's reaction and also ensure that we had checks and balances in place so that way nobody had too much say, but at the same time everybody had a significant stake in the outcomes. So.
But I guess my confusion is if there's no long-term maintenance and the problem can be fixed and there's money to be fixed, won't the parties putting up the money at least make the commitment that in the event the town meeting doesn't vote to accept it, that they will still go ahead and commit that money to that project?
Sir, I would respectfully say it's an inappropriate question because the parties aren't sitting here. The NRRC can't have a board meeting right now and make a commitment to you on that. Tyco Kendall is in no position to come here and talk about this. And Invencis, I worked a year and a half to get them to contribute. To change it now, I suspect would be problematic at the best and a death knell at the worst. And I appreciate the question, it's a good one, but as I've been updating the board over the last every 2 months or so as we've gone through this process, the intent is that we create a solution that will benefit the town as a whole. I've not asked that question, nor am I going to ask the question. I think the agreement that I have here is one that I would like to submit to the Board of Selectmen for review with suggestions. If you have individual suggestions, I'll be able to take them back to the stakeholders, and I'll try to get those answers by the time your next meeting happens. I don't think I want to discuss the finer points of an MOU in this form. But if you have questions that I can help with, as far as understanding the history, I think that's appropriate for now. I think specifics regarding the MOU, I'd like to be able to run through town council, who's working on our behalf, because remember, I'm on your subcommittee. That town's council should best advise us as to what the liability issues are and that sort of thing.
Speaking of town council, Bob, back when the settlement was made, Ryan versus, town council bills were supposed to be paid for from that settlement, correct?
For phosphate issues, yes.
Is that just what, that's the
This isn't a phosphate issue.
I understand, that's what I'm asking.
Yep.
So this comes through the town's legal budget?
Absolutely.
Okay. James, you all set?
I appreciate, Bob, you're ruling my question out of order, but I think that would be in the chairman to rule the question out of order, and I think it's an appropriate question, and I would love to get that commitment from whether it's Invencis and NRCC or whatever these entities are. Promise to these people that even if the town doesn't take it as a gift, they're going to fix that dam and they're going to keep that water level up and let the future, whatever happens in the future, be the future. But I would love to see that commitment. I think it would be much easier for town meeting to accept it as a gift if town meeting knew that it was going to be repaired regardless, rather than, no gift, I'm not going to fix it. Now you've got the major problems that have come to light in the past and have been crystallized tonight. That's what I'd like to see, and I appreciate you're trying to answer it, but maybe you can get those entities together and pose the question directly to them.
I'll be happy to do that. I'll get the answer back in time for the next meeting. However, and the reason I didn't rule you out of order, but as the author of this agreement, I do feel as though I have a stake in this, even though I'm just on your subcommittee. But you have to understand that I've had these meetings with all the parties and all the stakeholders, and it's a little more difficult than just going out and saying, well, here's a couple of if-then statements, let me have some money. Inventus is contributing because of reasons Inventus understands and knows, but part of that is that they want to see that the town takes ownership of this dam and not continue with H&V because they have to go through their DEP process. I believe they may find it easier to deal with fewer stakeholders as they get into this whole outcomes as Phase 3 concludes, Phase 4 begins, and then the findings occur. In our RC, of which I'm not a member, so I can only speculate their continued feelings, but as a contributor of money, there has to be an outcome for NRRC. The NRRC is not just giving gifts to companies to repair things. The NRRC is doing this because it'll be able to positively affect their ability to clean the reservoir, and to do that, they want to ensure that there's control by the town. So the NRRC, I don't believe, will be comfortable getting into an agreement where they're giving over $100,000 to a private company so they can repair their own asset and then there not be any control by the town. So I think I'm partially answering your question. It's a good question, and I'll be happy to get the answers. But I do know that as the person that's been doing the negotiating, that these are some of the feelings that have been on the table, and I'm happy to share those with you.
Okay, then to take one more issue back, in the event that we are underestimating the future cost of the repair, would the entities be willing to put a sum of money aside dedicated to future maintenance for that project, and again, make it even easier for town meeting to accept it as a gift?
Exactly what was going to be my question, James, an escrow account. But
that issue has come up, and I think that what the town needs to understand is that they're getting a gift for free. They are not having to pay for the repair of the dam. They don't have to contribute anything towards the repair of the dam. The capital cost of this dam repair is going to be at minimum $635,000. It was originally estimated at $950,000. Somewhere in between is going to be the truth. If the town had to effect repairs on our own, as Mr. Sullivan pointed out during the roundabout discussion, you have to bang that by at least 40% upward for municipal contracts. Thank you. By municipal contracts. So the town is essentially getting $1.3 million worth of repairs, and the request is that you mow it twice a year. I really don't think that's too much to ask. And so the discussions that were on the table regarding escrow accounts or regarding maintenance costs, they were held. There were good discussions. Everybody was open to discussion, but the feeling was that the shareholders and stakeholders wanted to contribute their money for a one-time capital outlay to repair the dam, gift it to the town, and that the town, with its resources, can do the maintenance. The maintenance is mowing it twice a year. The NRC has already committed to buy a weed whacker for the highway department. I think that there's funding available if specific costs come up, but I can't commit that now, nor would it be appropriate for me to do so. But as you know, there's many people in this room who are committed to seeing this reservoir thrive and be healthy and be clean. And so I think that either volunteer appreciation days, or maybe as they do in the Taunton River watershed, they have cleanup days. All those are ideas that can come down the road. I'm not looking to create the solution for that. All I'm doing is trying to get a repair of the dam and have it done for no taxpayer cost. That was the mandate, and that's what we have.
James?
I think there's a solution, and I think that it will satisfy a lot of the people in this room, and I think that's one solution, and the other is what I said earlier. I could go on, but I'll turn it back to you, Mark.
Okay. It seems to me that this could go on for quite some time. We're already 45 minutes behind schedule here, and we got a lengthy evening. Linda, you got something to add?
I thank you for the reports we received this evening from you and the Friends of Neponset. I'm going to take the next 2 weeks to look at everything, perhaps give some phone calls out to folks, and come back with my decision.
Can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry. I just want to make it clear, if it's not, that we want the dam to be owned by the town. That we don't want a company down in Walpole to be controlling the water levels and the future of the reservoir. And we want it to go to the town so that recreation can put fishing derbies out there, and recreation can bring canoeing trips in there and things of this sort. Not conservation, but the town. And we want the townspeople to have a say of what happens to the future. I found it hard to believe that the body of water that is used and owned by the town of Foxboro, the water levels are owned by some company down in Walpole. It's not appropriate, it doesn't belong there. As a member of the NRRC, I would definitely say, I'm not spending 2 cents on somebody else's dam. It belongs to the town. That's what I meant when I said the reason the lake looked like that is because we have been neglectful as a town. And we need to stand up and take responsibility for this body of water, dam, and water rights, and the whole thing. And until that happens, there is no future for this reservoir, because it will continue to get used and abused if we don't take a stand and take full ownership and responsibility for this body of water with the dam. Not the NRC, not conservation, not some private citizen group. The town should own that dam.
Okay. I appreciate everything you said. My point is, I like to see everything on town meeting floor, so that kind of tells you where I stand. As much as I think it's a very difficult situation, I let the town vote every time before I vote it down here. So we have to move on. Would you put this back on the agenda for 2 weeks, Andy? Is that what we're going to do?
Next meeting?
Yep.
And then we'll get back together on that day. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mark, can I ask you a question? Why is there a deadline? Why can't they go back and renegotiate with escrow or something to make it acceptable?
I agree. I agree. It should be an escrow account inside.
Great job. That was good.
You know what they're looking at, James, is timeline for construction season like everybody else. That's why they want to get this car by the fall.
To answer your question, there's filings they need to do for the permanent issue, so that's why they need to get it right for you. That's all.
Maybe we could charge for
Better recess. If you're gonna have a discussion, you should recess.
Thank you.
Okay, could you move on, please? We got other things to attend to. Next will be a public hearing, all applicable, license for East Coast Rest Inc., DBA Bar, Louis Tavern and Grill, One Patriots Place, Manager James Schwank, entertainment license also. Are you here?
Yeah, we are.
Please come forward. Sorry, it's running late for you.
It's like salmon.
Start swimming.
Thank you all. How are you all? Good. I'm sorry about that.
Gentlemen, please sit down, and once you're situated, names for the record, please.
For the record, Peter Tam, Wilson and Stores, special counsel in this instance, as you know, for the landlord, as counsel, and in this instance, special counsel for East Coast Restaurants, Inc., doing business as Bar Louie. This is the first of 3 liquor licenses that are before you this evening, and we're pretty excited about all 3. This is a culmination.
Peter.
Yes.
You're going way too fast for me. We have to read the public notice.
Oh, I apologize.
Names to the record, and then we're going to read the public notice.
Mark, tell me when I can go off and run it.
Names to the record, please.
Ted Casimir. Scott Ward.
Jamie Schwank.
And somebody else behind you? Is he with your group?
No, not in this form.
Okay. It's a public hearing, so Linda, could you read the legal notice, please?
I will. The Board of Selectmen of the Town of Foxboro, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to MGL Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 24th, 2008, at 7:45 p.m. in the Town Hall Meeting Room, 40 South Street, Foxboro, Mass. On application for a new annual all-alcohol restaurant license for East Coast Restaurants, Inc., DBA Bar Louie Tavern and Grill, One Patriot Place, Foxboro, Mass. 02035, Manager James R. Schwank. The premises is in approximately 11,000 square foot restaurant with open bar area and patio seating, with interior seating of 362 and outdoor seating of 300. All interested persons are invited to attend the hearing. Board of Selectmen, published one time on June 12th.
Thank you, Linda.
Sure.
Okay, Peter.
Thank you, Mike.
Run with it.
Mr. Chairman, with me, Ted Casimir is one of the owners of this establishment, and Scott Ward is the head of operations, and Jamie Schwank at the end of the table is going to be the manager that opens up this operation. I thought it would be helpful, as we often do with this board, just to orient you as to where Bar Louie is, and let Ted tell you very quickly about what his vision is and what Bar Louie is all about. It's in this section of the North Plaza, to familiarize yourself. It's adjacent to the Skipjacks, which you're familiar with now, having issued a license, and the Showcase, and Cinema Deluxe and the Showcase Live that you'll hear about later tonight. Parking likely for the operation would come from the parking fields out here, and you'd enter along the sidewalk, come in the main entrance along here. I'll let Ted cover quickly what Bar Louie is all about as a restaurant, and both Jamie can get focused on the operation itself and the layout, the seating, and answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, we handed out little packages for Bar Louie, showing the menu, about 80 items on the menu, made from scratch kitchen. We're a national group. We started in Chicago, and we're trying to be almost coast to coast now. We're got a unit under development in Anaheim, one in Buffalo, and one here. There's an open unit at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. But if you look, it's you see the pictures of the interior, and basically, it's all about the food. It's big, huge sandwiches, pasta, salads, pizzas, and it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't want to take up all your time and give you a million Bar Louie stories, but
Because we could.
and you guys might be hungry already.
In the photos that you have, you'll see one of the operations adjacent to Wrigley Field with the lights in the background. It's sort of reminiscent of what you see here. And they have a number of Ted was explaining to me, they have a number of facilities. This will be the first in New England, but around sporting arenas and stadiums. So this is something that's they're experienced in, and if you want to just touch on a few of those.
Right. I mean, we briefly mentioned we're in Washington, D.C. We opened last year at the Verizon Center, where the Capitals play and the Wizards play, with a number of concerts as well in the center. We're in Newport, Kentucky, which is across the river from the Great American Ballpark and Paul Brown Field, and the Cincinnati market. Pittsburgh, we're across the river from PNC Park and Heinz Field. And if you look at the pictures, you'll see what Bar Louie really is. We're the adult place to be. It's not a kid bar by any means, and we'll go from there.
Scott, do you want to walk through the elevations and hand those out if they haven't already? The plans that were submitted with the application may be a little bit difficult for you to determine just by their size. So we provided some architectural elevations as well as the floor plans.
That's just the exterior on the front page.
Right. If you want to go to the last page, is page 3. It gives you a good feel and layout to the restaurant. When you look on the main site plan, the sidewalk here next to the cinema, there's where our front door is, next to the staircase that goes to the rooftop and the elevator. We'll have a main bar approximately 20 feet after you walk into the restaurant, with approximately 30 seats. We have elevated seating here from Chicago. We call them gangster booths, and it's a riser. It's a 6-inch riser over here in the back. We do a private dining section with a small bar that we can do some corporate events or some business meetings, et cetera, et cetera. Pretty much from that dining room, the private dining room right there, all the way to the back, you can see the two restrooms and then the kitchen line and the cold storage and the beer cooler, the food cooler, and the dry storage, and actually a big office compared to most of our units.
Any questions from the board? Paul?
What I noticed in, if not all locations, you'd serve food until 2 a.m.
Till last call.
Last call.
Whenever the last call of the whatever the village ordinance in the different towns will.
8:30 in Foxboro.
And 8:30 in Foxboro then.
Well, I guess we're not eating dinner then.
And we do the full menu. So if you want, at 12:30 at night, you want a steak, we'll sell the steak. We'll sell the Yankee pot roast, the macaroni and cheese with the shrimp, or we're known for our Luigi with cheddar.
The main thing is the Luigi sandwich with cheese. It's almost like an East Coast cheesesteak. We put lettuce, tomato, with our cheese, and the Luigi. It's
been kind of a cult following since 1990.
46 Bar Louis, and that's the only we ever eat a Bar Louis, a Luigi.
There's 46 of these?
Yeah.
This will be 47?
Yeah. This will probably be 48 because the Mohegan Sun project opens next month. Or still June. Yeah, July 17th will open up but in Poconos there at it's Scranton or Wilkes-Barre for the Mohegan Sun project. We're going in there.
So food until last call. What type of ID verification? Just a server looking at the ID. There's no electronic.
We do double duty, especially when there's events at the stadium. We'll have door hosts work on the front door, and then also the bartenders and servers. So I always done a double check method. Had a company policy for 10 years. Everybody has to be tip certified. I make them go to learntoserve.com. Every server, every bartender, every busboy, every manager has to have it. Have to do it within 30 days of employment. Have to give us a copy. We keep it on file. They also keep a book for it. Try to stay ahead of the. One of these days, the whole nation's going to be that way.
Right. You figure your managers can be tip certified, but it's not.
They're not making the
managers
sales.
Making
right.
the sales on this. We want our people to be the responsible party, to be the guy that's touching the customer.
But I take it. We have a zero tolerance, and when something happens, I just fired a manager and a server yesterday at a store right outside our back door offices. Somebody was underage, got served. I found out about it, and done.
That's the appropriate response. Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, I've asked of all the different entities that have come before us with Patriot Place. I'm always interested to see if it's just table side, verification, where sometimes you get a new server that doesn't know, or are you doing something at the door? So that's great to hear that you
double
duty there.
Yeah, these, as you know, these licenses are very valuable and a part of our business, and then we got to keep it, do the right thing.
And the other thing that I usually speak about at these meetings when we have these liquor licenses is, this is kind of a unique situation where a lot of these different restaurants are coming in where they operate in certain locales, but certainly not next to a major NFL stadium. And I think a lot of the times, they kind of don't anticipate some of the problems that we might have with 70,000 people being outside your front door. But it seems like you guys
we live in.
Oh, God.
Have an understanding of that.
Well, Wrigley, the Cubs Sox series. I was there Saturday working. Work, go to the game, come back, work a little bit.
The Cubs still in the league? They actually still playing baseball?
They just beat 2 hours. They said
Baltimore. I know it's been a while, but it feels good when it does.
5-minute recess.
I'll take it.
All right, good, thank you.
We got that both Sox Cubs World Series coming up. Right?
Wow, okay.
Paul covered it.
Okay, James?
When I sat over there, I wrote down the name, sir. I did not get your name.
Mine?
Yes.
It's Scott Ward, as in mental.
And your name, sir?
I'm Ted Katzmeyer, K-A-S-E-M-I-R. And then Jamie's
James
GM.
Schwank. Oh, you're going to be the
I'm the
RC.
GM.
He's the GM. Okay, no problem.
You kidding, right?
No, I could spend a lot of time here.
And I just wanted to, where on the plan is your location?
Right here.
There it is, yeah.
As you drive down 1, you can see it from the highway around the corner.
Right. Well, everything, first of all, we make sure that all the paperwork is in order, and it is, so that's always a good sign.
Okay.
Second, you're right, next time I'm going to eat before I come to one of these meetings, because I look at the menu, and I can't
get hungry.
wait to eat it all.
I know. We drove around, we don't know where to eat around here.
I was coming through Boston not too long ago. It was 2 minutes after 10, and I couldn't get a bite to eat anywhere. So we'll know where to come next
Absolutely.
time after 10 o'clock, assuming that the license will run till after 10 o'clock. We're not that provincial. And I see Ted here tonight. Ted, it's really happening. This is something that's going to happen relatively soon. Your opening is expected when?
Home opener.
Before the home opener.
So this is...
No, we're not going to make Springsteen, but...
Right.
But
your construction is... What stage of construction is the restaurant?
Underground's going through right now. So by the 11th of July, rough framing should be done. I'm back here to work on that, make sure there's no last minute tweaks I want to do. And hopefully we're, by September 1st, we're done.
Yeah, we'll do a couple job fairs, because, you know, how all local, I'm going to look for, need local managers, you know, staff from here, because we don't know the marketplace. We need the local people who know the marketplace.
It's clear to me, Jim, that these two guys don't sleep. They
No.
are going a mile a minute.
Well, that's good, because everything is in order, and I sometimes can feel the way the board is going to vote, and it seems likely that you'll get the license, but Linda hasn't had her questions out yet. So. Linda?
Actually, mine's been answered. I was just wondering what the time frame was, and so
Fast as I could build it.
it's great.
Can you name a sandwich after the Selectmen?
Yeah, the slaughter. All set, guys?
Mark, just one more. You might have mentioned it, and I just missed it in my notes. There's outdoor seating too?
Well, we got the seats in front.
Oh yeah, that's only like 8 people.
Correct. And then on top of the roof. Correct.
On top of what?
We have a roof.
Oh, you do? You have
There's a rooftop.
a rooftop.
Correct.
Can you say that one more time? A rooftop. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. I get it.
Well, they said we get persecuted a little bit.
For me. The other boys I can't speak for.
The guys behind you are starting to laugh. You know? They're like, oh, this is going to be easy. It's not easy, trust me.
What about entertainment? You guys have any entertainment on the weekends or anything? Just the
New Year's Eve, St. Patrick's Day. That's about it.
Who's St. Patrick?
Yeah. It's pretty big around here.
Yeah. Plenty of Hibernians up here.
Yeah.
All right, good, thank you.
All set. Well, it's a public meeting. Is anybody from the audience wish to be heard?
Mr. Chairman, just one question, and I guess it would be to all of the applicants. Are they going to catch up to Europe on the credit card purchases? In Europe, they bring in the credit card machine to the table, and around here, until recently, very few establishments, they take your credit card, go off into the back room, swipe it, and bring it back.
We're doing a test. Troy, who's in charge of our IT company, I just sent him to a conference out in California, and we're looking at a couple of them because we see that's the trend right now because of all the fraud going out there with the credit card, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
So we're looking at it. I mean, the problem is the, you know, it's a $800 piece of equipment, but these guys are walking around the home with, you know,
30 of them. And we're still not real comfortable with the security because of the Wi-Fi. Correct. And that is our biggest fear, that somebody will get into the system and be able to grab all that information. Terrific question.
I know they use them quite extensively in Europe, so I don't know what the history is there, but
It's something that's on our agenda. I mean, you know, we're
Next couple
currently
of years.
operate 63 units. Besides the Bar Louis brand, there's 20 other brands, and we're looking at it on a national scale. So,
Good.
as soon as it's ready, we'll be on it.
Bob, I take it you've been to Europe lately?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion. Oh, to close the, is that okay?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion made.
Second?
Any discussion?
Can I just, we have to close it for each of the three applicants?
Yes.
Okay,
All those in favor?
All right.
There is also, Mr. Chairman,
Entertainment?
an entertainment license, and I wonder if it's appropriate to address it now.
Absolutely.
Entertainment license for
You want
this
to
one?
take a vote on liquor license first, and then,
I apologize, yes.
yeah, let's take a vote on liquor license first. Mark.
Okay. I motion that we accept the application for the all alcoholic restaurant license for East Coast Restaurant Inc., DBA Bar Louie Tavern and Grill, 1 Patriot Place, for the manager, James Schwank.
Second. Paul.
Motion made, second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Peter? Peter? And since you're running the meeting tonight.
I'm just trying to get you all through this and get you on. The entertainment license that's before you that you should have copies of, I didn't bring extras. It's fairly standard. This is an application for the Bar Louie restaurant, which will include TVs, there will be music. We didn't discuss any live entertainment.
Just New Year's Eve and special occasion and St. Patrick's Day, standard.
Did you have to come in on a special license, one-day license to entertain on New Year's Eve?
No, I think this is an annual license, Jim. Once you grant this, they will file a letter with the board for those special functions to advise the board what group is coming in and the times.
And also be aware that after a certain amount of people, you need to have a guaranteed police detail.
Oh, yeah.
So just have somebody in contact, Mr. Schwank, with the Chief O'Leary.
We met the chief in the hallway, talked to him, met with Mark Burgess through it.
Okay.
On a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
I was just going to ask a question. I didn't understand why it says 7-day entertainment.
That means Monday.
The TVs are on.
7 days a week. Got it. Thank you.
Chairman, I make a motion, we issue a 7-day entertainment license to East Coast Restaurants Incorporated, DBA Bar Louie Tavern and Grill.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Thank you very much.
We'll need volunteers for our month.
Yeah, so we have all the food, the bears and everybody.
Look at that.
A good contact for charity organizations and things like that when we do the opening. Yeah.
Any member of the Board of
Yeah,
Selectmen.
any one of us.
Or the school committee.
Jimmy will work that.
Are you still
The bye
looking
week
for a
will probably
place
do
to eat
the-
tonight? Seriously?
Yes.
Go right down 140 to 99. Or there's Piccadilly across the street.
They'll find you, too.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll fight you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
1.5 miles
Safe
down.
trip.
from
Very
my
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Please do.
Good luck.
Okay. Why don't we draw it? Hey, do you want your picture back?
We'll keep that on.
Peter, you want to put this on that so the TV can grab it?
It's a multifunction
Whatever.
picture. All right, let's do it this way. Why don't you read the public notice this time first?
Okay, why don't I do that? The Board of Selectmen of the Town of Foxborough, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to MGL Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 24th, 2008, at 7:45 in the Town Hall Meeting Room, 40 South Street, Foxborough, Mass., on an application for a new annual all-alcohol restaurant license for East Coast Restaurants, Inc., DBA... Oh,
It's only just that. Okay, just swap out the,
Yeah.
okay.
Did you get two of the
It
same?
Oh, I got it. CBS, sorry. I know
okay.
it's not really no competition or anything, but license for CBS Scene Patriot Place LLC, DBA CBS Scene Restaurant and Bar, 1 Patriot Place, Foxborough, Mass. 02035. Manager Michael Cesnik, sorry.
That's quite right.
The premises is an approximately 19,625 square foot, 3-story grill with a main dining room, bar area, private function space, and full and preparatory kitchens with indoor seating for 485 and including outdoor dining with seating for 268. All interested persons are invited to attend the hearing.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, Peter, names for the record.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Peter Tam again, Wilson and Stores, Special Counsel for CBS Senior Assistant.
Welcome.
And Michael Sesnick, General Manager for CBSC.
I'll open it up to you again.
This is, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this is another first for Foxborough. This is the only CBS scene in the country, and it's something that we should all be pretty excited about. As you can see from the concepts, and we can put these out to the public as well. This is the facility that's under construction. You can see it kind of jutting out at the gateway, at that stairwell across from the hall in Patriot Place. So to orient you on the plan, it's in the same general location as the Bar Louie, but in a little more of a prominent section. Here was the Bar Louie. The CBS scene is right on this corner, and if you've been walking up that stairway, that's a stairway that gives me a heart attack every time I try and get up it. But you can see by the elevation, the 3 stories build out, so that the top section at the CBS scene sign, the black sign on that edge, is sort of at the edge of the North Plaza. So that's at the street level here on the pedestrian concourse. The lower level here is 2 floors down, and this is in this sort of plaza area by the hall that's taking shape over here. And Michael can go through quickly what the concept is, how the restaurant operates, and how you can see that there are both indoor and outdoor areas, but what CBS Scene really is about.
Okay, Michael.
Good evening. Thank you. If I'm a little bleary, it's because we've done our job fair, or at least our big hiring last week. We spent 5 days. We had well over 600 interviews, nearly 700 interviews, and made job offers to 197 people, which is most of our staffing, not all of our staffing, but well along its way. So this very exciting building is really 3 different levels and some different activities on each floor. The 3rd level, which is at, as Peter said, the plaza level, is predominantly bar, but has seating area in it as well. We say bar because it has the largest bar in the facility. We will be serving lunch there 4 to 5 days a week, and then a bar menu when we're not serving the lunch menu. Between indoors and outdoors, bar seating, table seating, it's 270 seats. The 2nd level is where we will serve lunch on our busiest days, presumably 2 to 3 days a week, as well as dinner 7 days a week. There's a small bar in the corner down on the 2nd floor as well, which has 9 stools at it. Indoors, outdoors, bar, and table seating, that's 260 seats. And the 1st floor down here has our private function room, approximately 120 for a sit-down dinner, up to 200 for a reception. And as well, that's the location for our CBS store, which will be the first in New England as well, selling CBS memorabilia, cups and T-shirts and so forth. It is a pretty exciting building going on inside. With the CBS theme, it is taking basically a theme. It's not just a sports bar. Everybody has said that to me. Oh, it's a sports bar. I think you can get an idea from this that it's a little bit beyond that, to say the least. It's a very, very exciting environment where you are surrounded by all kinds of CBS content, be it sports or be it the entire history of CBS. One of the predominant features of the entire building is this, which you can see here, which is a cylinder stairway which goes through all 3 floors, made out of metal and glass, where it has a double-loaded stairway, which you'll see on the diagram, wherein it has projection and flat screen and still imagery, that it's basically walking inside of a CBS museum in this large stairwell. The whole feel of the place is that you're backstage at in a CBS studio, and in fact we would have live television and radio broadcasts from this facility. This would be the 3rd floor. You're also seeing the idea that there are televisions right at the tables, where our guests can, while they're enjoying their meal, can actually see approximately 20 content feeds of entertainment on these flat screens. So you can come in and see a CBS loop on comedy, CBS comedy, some of the old shows from the Honeymooners I Love Lucy on to today, or a David Letterman loop, or a CBS Sports loop, as well as live television for events that are taking place, say, in the stadium or elsewhere. This third one gives you an idea of the dining area. This would be the second floor, where you can see that CBS I stairway coming down. As well, you get an idea of something called the Heritage Wall, which is also giving you the history of CBS and some pretty exciting imagery.
Pretty exciting.
Mr. Chairman, that central sort of focal point that Michael was talking about is this here, from, as you can see from above. This is the first floor level, and I wonder if you could just walk quickly through the layout, the entrance and access, because it is a little difficult to contemplate with the three stories, so you can understand how that lays out.
So yeah, so this is the base of that stairwell that's leading from the plaza all the way down past our restaurant and towards the hall at Patriot Place. This first floor is the function room, as I said, and the retail store would be here. There's access to the building at this point downstairs here.
And a small outdoor patio adjacent to. I think there's a parking area in the plaza. That plaza
parking area is here, and then that plaza is there. Yeah.
So if you went up.
Correct. This would bring you up to the second floor, where we have the smaller bar, more of a quiet bar, perhaps while you're waiting for your table. But definitely, and you can we'll serve meals at the bar, of course. But it's sort of a quiet little nook of a bar. Tables and booths, freestanding and so forth throughout the room. This has a large display kitchen with a communal table in front of the chef's line as well, so you can sit and have a meal and be watching, looking right into the kitchen and seeing what's going on. And again, there's a terrace on this floor as well, about 64 seats. Kitchens, offices, prep areas, enormous audio-visual room, as you might guess. Third floor, again, up one more level. This is where we would see potentially the largest number of our guests arriving to the restaurant at this level, simply because that's the major flow from the center in general. And this is this arc here is the large bar on this floor, about 25 seats. Again, a communal bar table, and then tables and chairs and booths throughout the floor. There'll be a bar out on this terrace as well. They could come up to this level as well through the stairway or through elevators on the side.
Michael, do you want to cover quickly the restaurant menu type, the scale, the caliber?
Sure. I didn't bring a copy for each of you, but we can perhaps share. I won't
That's fine.
Kill you with tempt you with the food at this late hour. The food is straightforward, American, upscale, casual food. I would think it would be similar in spirit and in vein to many of you, as you may find at a Cheesecake Factory type of restaurant, where we're cooking it all from scratch. We're covering a variety of price points, from sandwiches and pizzas to very nice steaks and seafood items as well.
And the hours of operation?
Hours of operation, we'll open for lunch at 11:30, and dinner would run through approximately 10:30 for the dining room, and the bar menu would go through the end of service.
You also want to touch on certification and how you train your staff?
Certainly. We would have all of our front of house staff certified with the TEAM program, which is very similar to TIPS. We use that in the stadium as well. Very effective training program. All the managers will also be TIPS certified and trainers, not just certified, but as I am certified as a certified trainer.
You all set, Peter? Michael, you all set?
I believe so.
Paul, any questions?
Yeah, Michael, I'll just ask you what I've asked all the applicants.
Certainly.
What type of ID verification? Is it going to be manual? The server looks at the ID and makes a decision, or is there any type of electronic verification?
We will be doing manual one-on-one. It's this is really more of a restaurant, so we feel that there's, opportunity for the bartenders and the servers to get an ID from each and every guest.
All right. And I think, the other thing that we've talked about is the kind of uniqueness of this project. And a lot of applicants coming before us and maybe haven't been in that situation before. Certainly we haven't, if anything of this scope. So one of the things that at least I'm concerned about on this board is people, going to Patriot Place, maybe getting shut off somewhere else and kind of looking for the weakest point. So I think it's important that all the applicants understand that, you have to be more vigilant than maybe somewhere else where, your organization or your business is the only entity. Certainly the entire Patriot Place will be the destination, and I'm just concerned that people will start shopping around for, the weakest point where they can maybe get a couple of beers after they've had too many. So just be cognizant of that. I know, all the applicants before us have stated that they'll look out for that and be careful.
Absolutely, that's been my experience in working from large casinos in Las Vegas for people like Tom Colicchio and Danielle Ballou at the Wynn,
sure.
And in New York restaurants. You definitely have to be vigilant everywhere.
And we're kind of late, but I did want to ask, what is your background? You said you mentioned Vegas. Anywhere else?
I've worked for 23 years in the hotel and restaurant business after graduating from Cornell University School of Hotel Administration, and I've been very fortunate to work for a lot of the very best hotel companies and restaurateurs in the country, from Danny Meyer in New York, Union Square Hospitality Group, to Danielle Ballou, Tom Colicchio. Everybody knows Tom now as Top Chef. Disney Company, opened up Disneyland Paris, as well as working for Hilton International for several years, opening Vista hotels.
So you've been through this. This is nothing, right?
I have.
All right.
It's a lot of fun.
What about, you mentioned, obviously, CBS, with this being kind of a new concept, they're probably going to want this to be a flagship. They're going to want to bring in some broadcasts, I'm sure. Is that on, in the plans on the horizon that there's going to be live broadcasts and maybe bring in a large amount of people? I know wherever I go there's paparazzi, so but any doctors or something, that they kind of want to hang out and mill about and just check out the scene.
We would definitely, the scene, you said you couldn't have said that better.
Right.
We'll put you on our marketing team.
There you go.
Yeah, the CBS scene is what we want there to be, a place where you would expect to be part of the excitement. Obviously, great location next to the stadium, but also with the broadcasts, with the radio and television personalities. CBS is looking to support us very, very much in that endeavor. That'd be great.
Paul, point taken in terms of sort of point of access, and I just wanted to add to Michael very quickly. This is a joint venture between CBS and the Kraft family, and in that regard, when it comes to security and the zero tolerance policy, Michael is very focused on those issues. In particular, he was hired for his experience in those issues, and Mark Briggs, who I think is in the audience, has been very focused and to address the issues in terms of control. This is a zero tolerance establishment, and I think what's somewhat unique in what the landlord here is trying to do to many of the establishments, to the extent they can, is get everyone who's up front, tips or team trained and possibly certified. And it's very unusual. Usually it's limited to sort of management levels.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well,
Paul stole my thunder.
that's why he gets to go first.
Yeah.
James, did Paul steal your thunder too?
I used to sit in the middle and I asked questions first. Now I sit at the end and the questions get asked. I'll say this, that it seems like a wonderful creation that CBS has come up with for this particular location. And I, for one, am grateful that this isn't happening in Hartford and it's not happening in Boston. When the development first came to the town of Foxboro, there were a number of hearings, and I remember one of them at the committee that Mr. Sullivan was chairing, and Mr. Feeney was on that committee. And during the course of that, it came to me that what the future of Foxboro was to be a center of entertainment in New England. And I think that your particular venture really crystallizes that. And I, for one, am very glad that you're here, and I wish you all the luck. And I have every reason to believe it will be a big success. It seems like everything that the organization has done on Route 1 has been what they said they were going to do. They all along they said we're going to be bringing in high-end, state-of-the-art, first-time ventures, and you're welcome to be here. We look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. Very kind.
That wasn't a question.
Statement, I think. Linda?
Just, again, we have another entertainment license, and I'm assuming that's just because of the TVs and the ongoing, I mean, everything's entertainment, right? I mean,
Correct.
CBS is entertainment.
We should charge by the TV.
No, I think it sounds wonderful. It's something really being brought to the town that's just going to make Foxborough shine a little bit more than it does. So I appreciate it, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
As well as I. This is a public hearing. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the application for the all-alcohol restaurant license for CBS Scene Patriot Place, LLC, DBA, CBS Scene. Manager, Michael Sesnick.
Second. Made and second. Any more discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And while you're here,
We have to do the entertainment.
while you're here,
license.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue a new 7-day entertainment license to CBS Scene Patriot Place LLC, DBA CBS Scene Restaurant and Bar, 1 Patriot Place, Foxborough, Mass.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
When do you expect to be ready to open?
We expect to be ready to open shortly after the beginning of August. Our construction schedule is hopefully going to present the building to us in the end of July, have staff starting at that point for training, and then open up in the first week of August.
Can you hit that, Ted?
A lot of work. We're on track.
Okay, Linda, one more.
The Board of Selectmen of the Town of Foxborough, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to MGL Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 24th at 8:15 in the Town Hall Meeting Room, 40 South Street, Foxborough, on application for a new all-alcohol, a new annual all-alcohol restaurant license for Showcase Live LLC, DBA Showcase Live at Patriot Place, 23 Patriot Place, Foxborough, Mass. 02035. Manager Joseph J. Galante. The premises is a dining, musical, and live entertainment restaurant facility. The premises includes a multi-purpose, multi-function room with seating of 496 patrons, bar, lobby area, kitchen area, support rooms, and storage. Outdoor seating will be 468. All interested persons are invited to attend the hearing, published one time on June 12th.
Okay, now I'm really getting hungry, Peter. Let's go.
Chairman Peter Kim, Tools and Shorts for the record, special counsel on behalf of Showcase Live. With me is Joe Galante, the manager of record, as well as Bill Tawi, the senior vice president of operations for National Amusements.
Thank you.
This is the final first of the evening for Foxborough. This is the only Showcase Live multi-purpose restaurant facility in the country at this stage, and it's coming to Foxborough. You may have actually even seen the promotions in the Globe. A lot of exciting acts ongoing. This is one that I think you're familiar with now in terms of location. Again, adjacent to the Cinema Deluxe complex, which we had discussed a few months back, and we had mentioned this was coming. This is really going to, it's another joint venture between National Amusements and the Kraft family, and it's really going to bring, as has been described to me, the final sort of entertainment component to Patriot Place, which is really focusing on music and I think it's a very unique facility from that point of view. Bill will sort of outline what his concept is here, how it will function, and certainly Joe is here to answer questions as to the operation and how he plans to run the facility.
Thank you, Peter. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is Bill Talley, and I'm Senior Vice President of National Amusements. We're also the parent company of Quincy Amusements, which you honored us with giving us an approval a few weeks ago for operation of our Cinema Deluxe Theater. And we have joined, as Peter mentioned, in partnership with the Kraft family and the Redstone family to bring together the new venue, which we call Showcase Live. And the idea here is to present live entertainment, close-up type food, and it's more or less a dinner theater, I guess, is maybe a good way to describe it. We found in our own business in our core business of movie entertainment that we need to bring better and more types of entertainment to the community to make it a real destination place. And that's really what we're developing with Showcase Live. It'll be a venue of different types and different styles. For example, for jazz concerts, we'll be seating roughly 500 people for dinner and entertainment. For game day, we have a special, Joe explained that a little bit more to you, but we have a special arrangement with the Kraft family and the Patriots to, on game day, have a buffet operation where holders of tickets to the games will be able to come in 2 hours before game and have actually almost like an indoor tailgating, where they'll have a buffet and for 2 hours, then go to the game. And these people will be buying tickets that are seated in the 100 section of the stadium, and it's limited to 400, I think 402 people total. And then after the game, they'll be able to come back to the venue, and we'll have the cheerleaders there hopefully on occasion, and we'll have some of the older players, the ex-players, maybe I should say, from the Patriots. So we'll be providing that type of entertainment on game day. And in other variations of the venue, we're going to be available for corporate functions. We could even do weddings and bar mitzvahs. I think a lot of the activity here is going to take place from some of the offshoot of what happens at Gillette Stadium, where there are big corporate events, and there are a lot of small corporate events that really can't, I hate to say it, but can't afford to go into the stadium at higher prices with the larger venue. This will offer corporate a chance to come into a smaller venue and be able to have teleconferencing and meetings and dinner and cocktail parties during the time that the venue isn't operating for either comedy or music entertainment on the weekends. The typical hours of operation on the weekends will be open at 6 p.m. and usually we'll run 2 shows during the evening on Friday, Saturday, and maybe a Sunday afternoon, and 1 or 2 evening shows on Sunday. I think, Joe, do you maybe want to go into a little more detail on how the operation works and so forth?
Again, thank you for having me. I'm the general manager of this wonderful facility. Joe Galanti is my name. And like Mr. Towie said here, this is such a first-class entertainment restaurant. We have 4 scenarios here, and just so you're not flipping through the pages, of the venue, we have a layout here for live performance, which will seat 520 people. And what's very unique about this is some of the A-class stars that we have performing, you're going to be within a few feet of, having a sirloin steak or whatever. And that's a pretty unique environment for anywhere in New England. And we get to bring it to Patriot Place. Along with that, we also have the game day scenario, which right in the middle of the stage, instead of performance, we're going to have on the screens, obviously, pre-game and post-game press conferences, if you will. And there'll be a grand buffet. And again, this is for select ticket holders that will be able to come to the venue. And that is just on game days. And for instance, again, so you're not flipping, we have a nice little chart for you here that shows what the actual game day might look like. Going forward, we have our banquet layout, which is 308 seats. Maybe that would be for a wedding, upscale, whatever the occasion may be, you could rent out our facility. And then we have standing room, which is only 1,000 people max, and that's basically for trade shows. And I have a great layout of maybe a corporate meeting would take place where there'd be private booths that you can attend and step up to the facility as well. Going forward, I just want to highlight some of the artists. Our first act, which is August 16th of this year, we have Al Jarreau. This is a 5-time Grammy Award winner whose unique vocal style is unbelievable. 2 days later, we have Shaka Khan. And if I hear one more time that, Shaka Khan, she is coming. We're bringing her right to the stadium, into this wonderful facility. Again, Voice to Men, Squeeze, getting more to my genre, hence I'm 35 years old. The famous Bring in the Funk, Bring in the Noise, Savian Glover. Okay, so we also have tap, jazz, performances, and all these acts, we serve full service restaurant. So the menu we can go over, I'll highlight it very quickly. Phenomenal menu with New England flair. Gin Blossoms as well. Al Green is coming. We just signed Al Green. So that's pretty exciting. The menu, like I said, American flair, clam chowder. I want to say my clam chowder is a little bit better than legal seafood, but I wish everyone in this room to be the judge of that. Menu of salads. Our grill is what we're going to be famous for. Fillets, prime rib, porterhouse. We have a 22-ounce porterhouse. We call that our #1 act. New York sirloin strip, marinated tips, turkey tips, seafood.
You're killing me. All right. You're killing. Let's move on.
And again, as far as my history, I've been with National Amusements now for 6 years. Prior to that, I worked at Gillette Stadium. I opened up the Fidelity Clubhouse under David Wheeler, who's the Vice President of Concession Operations there. Prior to that, I put 9 years in with Fenway Park and the Aramar crew. All our employees, again, zero tolerance as far as alcohol. We do serve alcohol at this venue, and everybody will be team tips oriented, including my management staff. Everybody has to go through me. I will do every one of the classes. I'm a master trainer for tips, for team, and it's represented obviously and recognized by the state of Massachusetts. Again, the layout of the club, I will always have 4 managers on just in front of the house. And the #1 thing the managers are, obviously we're there for service, but we're also there to make sure the servers are doing their job. IDing. And my job for whether it's corporate meeting or live entertainment, I'll be at the front door. And that's to make sure that the right people are getting in with the right tickets. Again, we have plenty of people. It's not just 6 people running the club, but there's 6 people managing the club. So that's pretty good. I have a total staff of 8 salaried positions under me.
Mr. Chairman, Bill, Mark Briggs, Chief O'Leary have been in constant discussion about security and safety of this operation, and that's something that's an ongoing dialogue because of the size of the establishment. And they focused on developing plans that are appropriate for each and every event that's held here. The good news is that from a logistic point of view, game day is limited to those fairly expensive seat holders, so there's no complexity in terms of additional traffic or drawing a crowd that might be difficult to manage on game day, and that's a relief, I think, to everybody that it's focused on existing ticket holders that are going to behave themselves because they are high caliber tickets, and it's going to be a very nice amenity for those lucky ticket holders.
Paul, any questions more?
Yeah, I think a lot of my questions were answered in this presentation, in this package, but just as kind of a segue off of what you just said, Peter, game days, we're talking about just a limited amount of ticketed people going in. These shows that you have booked, just ticketed, right? I mean, there's no general entry, show up at the door, and you can, I mean, if there's tickets available, obviously.
Tickets available.
But it's not something that, we're just expecting the general public. All these shows, all ages?
Yes.
Okay. And just the question about verification, ID verification, manual, or is there any type of electronic?
Right now, it's manual. I think that's the best form of identification, and like I said, we also have backup to the manual, which is my management staff making sure my staff is actually doing that. One thing is, everyone gets ID. Everyone, no matter what the age.
All right. And you say you're 35 years old and you're running this place? Good job. Good work. Maybe we'll bring in some contemporary music to write for people our age group.
We could definitely do that.
It's a good lineup. I mean,
it's a great mature lineup.
As a DJ, I mean, I'm into music and all types of music, but this is good. I'm glad to see you guys here. I think it's a great venue.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great presentation. Question for you on the tickets. Do you have to physically go up there online, or is it?
We're available on Ticketmaster.com, ShowcaseLive.com. You can purchase tickets that way, and purchase tickets at our box office in our lobby.
Okay, great.
James, reserve seating, Mr. Galante?
We do have reserve seating.
Is that, so if you come into a show, you buy a ticket in advance, you know where you're going to sit?
Correct.
Okay, so your seats, it's assigned seating.
There is assigned seating around the club, and you can see in the diagrams that all the banquet tables, you would be assigned into those tables if you're eating. Some people like to stand in the back near the bar. They don't really, not the dancing type or whatever. So there is assigned seating.
And all the paperwork is in order?
It is.
That's my normal question. Paul asks his normal questions. I ask mine. I got to tell you that your passion is really great. That this is something special, and I think that you bring something special to this particular project. It's difficult to find something new to say as each applicant comes in, but I get increasingly enthusiastic based upon your enthusiasm. And I wish you all the luck. I think you're going to do great, and I look forward to seeing more of your headliners. Some of them go back to my time. That's all I have.
Must have to dig them up.
My brother-in-law loved the Average White Band, I'll tell you that.
I never even heard of them.
Didn't know Glenn Miller was still around.
Wow. It's good feed.
Great job. I mean, the presentation was great, and everything was in order. What about you folks? When do you anticipate that you'll be opening the doors?
Like I said, our first event is August 16th, knock on wood.
And that's going to happen, right?
That's when we go live.
That's going to happen.
Now, I should tell you,
committed.
go ahead.
No, I just said we've committed to that, so and Ted will back us up, of course.
Right, Ted. There we go.
We're all sweating here, but in conjunction with this license, there are also, after the close of this hearing, there are 2 entertainment licenses. One for this establishment, and we're going back to the cinema and getting an entertainment license for the cinema. Obviously, they're going to be playing movies, so we do need an entertainment license there as well.
That was on your action. That's on your action list.
Yeah.
That's on our action.
Yeah.
So we can hit it
So
at the
we'll
same
hit it.
time and get rid of it.
Want to do it now, or?
You all
Well, sometimes we grab one and not the other, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Questions on it?
That was it? No.
The public hearing, anybody from the audience wish to be heard? Seeing none, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Linda, you gonna go 3 for 3?
Sure. Give it a shot. I motion to approve the application for the all-alcoholic restaurant license for Showcase Live at Patriot Place with manager Joseph Galante.
Motion made.
Second.
Made second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. And now we're gonna do
Good luck with
the,
your opening.
Entertainment.
we're gonna do the entertainment.
Entertainment license,
Yeah,
everything now.
if that's in order, Mr. Chairman.
Paul's been handling those tonight, Paul.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve a new 7-day entertainment license to Showcase Live at Patriot Place, Joseph Gallant, manager.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Andy, we have one up the action you want to hit now?
Do you want to do
This
that?
was the Cinema Deluxe, the entertainment license on your other list.
You
want to do it now?
Yeah, I would say do it off the
That
action
way
now
these
while they're
guys
here.
are
Okay,
here
I'll
and-
stick around for that then.
No, we do it right now.
Okay, I
here.
appreciate
It's item 12 on the list, if you want to pull that out.
Yep. And this is just
The bottom.
Entertainment license.
because they're showing the movies and...
Yeah, and you recall that there's TVs, there's a lot of technology in
Oh,
the
okay.
cinema.
So you need that.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve a new 7-day entertainment license for Showcase Cinema Deluxe, Patriot Place, Joseph L. Norman, III manager.
Motion made. Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Incredible
It
place
sure
out
is.
there.
We're looking forward.
Lights,
I'm
camera,
going
action,
to make a
everything.
motion, we take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, you're the chair, you can call it.
Do I need a second? Nope. Okay, 5-minute recess.
Oh, yeah.